Slide your pens, sign the transfer, and leave the badges on the table. My parents and sister sat frozen, their faces pale against the glass. 10 minutes ago, they owned a logistics firm. Now they're looking at the woman who just purchased their debt, liquidated their assets, and initiated their immediate termination. To understand how I went from the family's greatest embarrassment to their new boss, we have to look at the decade they spent pretending I didn't exist. And while we're talking about smart investments, hit that subscribe button to catch the next chapter. This buyout wasn't a sudden impulse. It was the calculated endgame of a child who learned that when people refuse to see you, they also never see you coming. My childhood was defined by the smell of bleach and the constant hum of the dryer. While my parents and sister lived the life of wealthy socialites, I was the shadow that kept the household running, unpaid, unacknowledged, and tasked with every chore they found too beneath them. My older sister Chloe was the family star. She was rewarded with designer shoes for simply showing up to class, while her endless tantrums were treated like high-stakes drama that required my parents' undivided attention. While they pampered her, the family business was actually rotting. They were bleeding corporate operating funds to pay for Chloe's European summer tours and my mother's country club fees, ignoring every red flag on their quarterly reports. I walked into the living room holding a state-level coding trophy I'd spent 6 months earning, but no one looked up. My mother was too busy consoling Chloe over a slightly late pizza delivery. I dropped the trophy in the trash and went back to the garage. That was the moment I stopped looking for a seat at their table. I decided that if they wanted me to be invisible, I would use that privacy to build an exit strategy they couldn't possibly ignore. Working by the light of a stolen lamp in the garage, I spent 3 years teaching myself C++ and Python on a discarded laptop. I spent my nights debugging code while my family slept, using the silence they forced on me to master complex app architecture. I designed ThreadFault. It used an AI vision system to scan designer tags, verify authenticity, and instantly calculate the high-yield resale value. After 2 years of grinding, our user base hit 5 million, and a VC round valued the project at $10 million. While I was still being yelled at for not folding the towels fast enough, I was quietly managing an escrow account larger than the net worth of my parents' entire company. By my senior year, my father's logistics company was barely solvent, but Chloe's spending hadn't slowed down. This data shows the exact moment their overhead became unsustainable, with personal debt finally overtaking their plummeting stock value. Panicking over a maxed-out credit card, Chloe stole our mother's vintage diamond necklace. She pawned it for pennies on the dollar, then planted the empty case in my backpack to redirect my father's inevitable rage. They didn't even let me explain. My father called me a thief, threw my clothes into a trash bag, and forced me out the door. By choosing to protect a daughter who was actively bankrupting them, while discarding the only child who was actually generating wealth, they effectively signed their own liquidation papers. Fast forward to the present. The logistics company finally collapsed under the weight of their debts. Every asset, the trucks, the warehouse, and the family home was put up for auction. I was the anonymous bidder who bought it all. I waited for them in their own boardroom, watching the shock settle in as I revealed that the invisible child was now their primary creditor. Suddenly, my mother was full of apologies, talking about family bonds and how we should move past the misunderstandings of the past. I didn't blink. I simply opened this folder. It contained the high-resolution surveillance stills from the pawn shop Chloe visited 4 years ago. I'd had the proof for years. I was just waiting for the moment it would cost them the most to see it. Having the receipts allowed me to do what they couldn't, act on facts instead of favoritism. The data didn't care about their excuses, and neither did I. I watched them sign the final documents. I terminated their employment on the spot and gave them 24 hours to vacate the property I now owned. I returned to my headquarters to scale ThreadVault into a global market, while my family took the only jobs they could get with their ruined credit, entry-level service work, finally learning the value of the labor they once forced on me. They spent years treating me like I was invisible. They just didn't realize that when you stand in the shadows, you have the perfect view of everyone's weakest link.